Okay, so I've had a lot of extra smoke and burning oil lately on my 5.3 liter GMC Envoy Denali. What I'm going to do is actually swap out the valve cover. There's a design flaw there, which we'll look at here in just a little bit, that is causing a lot of that problem. I wasn't going to do a review, but I managed to get this through rockauto.com, and I'll put some information about that later on. But basically, this is the LS upgraded valve cover. I ordered extra PCV valve. I ordered an extra gasket, and coming to find out, this cheapest version available actually had everything with it already, including all the nice rubber grommets and bolts and everything else for a new valve cover. So instead of dealing with a lot of other replacement parts, this is actually going to be a pretty quick swap. I'm doing all this in an airport parking lot just because I'm bored today. So while I'm waiting for something else, I'm just going to swap out the valve cover on this 5.3. I'll do some more updating as we get along here, and we'll go over some more of the details. So it's fairly simple here. We're going to take off the coil packs, which are in the way, and it's actually not too terribly complicated. You do have to remove this clip right here, and I think one more at the back, which isn't too terribly difficult. And then you'll have to remove 5 of these little 10mm bolts, which are sprinkled throughout. They sort of stick up differently than the rest of them, so you just remove those 5 with a 10mm deep socket, and the coil pack section comes loose, and I'll go into a little bit more detail as we come along here. Okay, so I've unbolted 4 out of 5, loosened up the other one already. The only thing holding this in is this one plug right here. Just gonna pluck that loose. Got this down to finger tight, so that's the last one of those bolts. Move those out of the way, and then the entire fuel rail or coil pack section comes out of the way. Just put that there we go. All right, so now you can see your valve cover. Mine's pretty disgusting. Bought this a few months back, and I haven't really given the engine a proper detail, but that is where we're at on that. What you also have to do is disconnect the other side of the PCV right here, which I'll probably do off camera, and then we'll start on the 4 bolts that hold the valve cover down. You're just going to wiggle that whole hose loose until it pops loose. Don't lose track of that. Make sure to put it back on when you go to do the install. The actual valve cover is held on by 4 8mm bolts. So you'll want to take those loose, and that's actually all that's still holding it on. We'll get that done. We'll catch back up here in a second. So all 4 bolts are out now, all loosened out all the way. The valve cover comes loose pretty easy at this point. I'm going to pull that out of the way. And there's your top end. I'm going to show you guys the differences here in just a second on the old one and the new one. Alright guys, so here's the old one and the new one side by side. Other than the obvious being disgusting and filthy, everything else on the top looks to be in the same place. It's when you flip it over that you see the biggest difference. So the original design, which was a huge failure on the part of GM, was this hole right here, and basically what happened is all the oil would just blow by and escape through that hole. With the newer system, they created sort of a flange further back into the system. It keeps the oil from getting up into that top section quite as easily, and escaping through this very, very dirty PCV. They call it a valve, but there's actually no valve in the new system, or in this system. It's just a tube. But you can see a huge difference in the design there to save oil from escaping. So they did this on quite a few of the years, I think 04 to 06 or something like that. Realized their mistake and fixed it from there. But we're about to install the new one on there, and we'll go from, I'll show you how that goes. One quick tip before we go to install the valve cover. I like to take a little bit of oil. I've got a little bit here in a cap, and I just spread it over that gasket before you put it in. It helps create a good seal. You do this with any kind of oil filter change or anything like that. So same thing on here. I'm just gonna rub that across all the edges of the gasket, just create a better seal. Make sure there's no other dirt or anything on there that you've been moving it around. Good solid continuity. And then you'll go ahead and install it from there. So the new valve cover pretty much sits right down into place. You just want to line up and make sure that all your edges are against each other there. And start all 4 bolts by hand, as anything else you would do. So you can start those bolts, which they're all pretty much started now, I think. And you'll tighten them down with an 8mm, which I think I mentioned before. Make sure your hose is connected again onto your new PCV. There you go. And then you'll get ready to reinstall the coil packs. So once you have everything tightened down, all 4 of your 8mm and your hose back on, the next step is to just put the coil packs back in place and throw the bolts in. So we'll do that now. Alright, you just torque all 4 or 5 of those bolts down the 10mm. Make sure you re-plug in your coil packs. There you go. I don't know if you got this little clip or not, but mine has the little, oh, there we go. The clip right there. Make sure that goes back in, that way you don't lose any coil packs. Everything else on here is still tight. You don't have to remove anything else. So there you go. You have a brand new valve cover, brand new PCV, and all the gaskets on there as well. This is supposed to reduce smoke and burning of oil. Before I post this video, I'll test it out for a couple tanks and see if I'm still burning the quart per tank that I have been. So I'll let you guys know.